Hey guys, Flip here, and today I'm going to be going over every character in the game's Constellations and telling you which one is the worst one, so you can get a general sense of where you want to stop for each character, whilst also shitting on some weird ass game choices. The one rule I want to say is that it cannot be a C5 or C1, as they are just a talent upgrade, and that's it. So let's go on to the video, starting with Kokomi. Yeah, she's kind of not in the game yet actually, so well, she's a healer, so her whole kit is going to be an L anyways. So let's start with I, in which out of all her constellations, I have to go with C4, as attack percent bonuses don't really stack all that well. So I can only really see the benefit of this on a child comp, so I really don't think this constellation is that worth. Moving on to Sarah, her C1 is probably the most unnoticeable of her constellation and doesn't really do anything. Sarah already gets 3 attack bonuses assuming you have C2, her E, then short shot, and then ultimate, which is enough to snapshot 2 bursts and 1 more character, so I really don't get what this constellation really does. Moving on to Aloy. So Yoimiya C4 is the worst out of her cons because all it really enables her to do is force an extended rotation, as it makes you have less downtime, which isn't even a problem to begin with. The only real benefit of this constellation really serves is to make solo Yoimiya more viable. Sayu's C4 would actually be decent assuming it wasn't gated by 2 seconds, also 1.2 energy isn't that much considering she's an 80 cost. Then we have Ayaka, who is a strange case to where all of her constellations provide something, but nothing too drastic or too underwhelming that completely changes the character or is too redundant to notice. So I'm going to have to go with her C6, as C1 will allow Ayaka to get more energy, as her E generates a really good amount of energy, helping her enable the strongest part of her kit, which is her burst. C2 enables more coverage and more damage against bigger enemies. C4 is nuts, and all her C6 really does is give a spike in damage every 10 seconds, which isn't as valuable as the rest. Also, 298 is an ugly ass number. Now, Kazuha. All his C6 really enables him to do is become a main DPS, which really doesn't make you miss out on much, as his best role is a sub DPS on a full EM build. So now, moving on to the second best waifu in the game, Eula. I really don't know what the fuck Mihoyo was doing when they made Eula's constellations, they're all insane. But if I were to pick the worst one, it has to be C4. Yanfei is weird. Her C1 and C6 are good as they increase scaling and DPS, but then there's C2 which really doesn't do much, and then there's C4 which gives you a shield that is actually decently strong, but between them, I think I'm going to go with C2 because it's situational crit rate buff, which is kind of useless if your Yanfei is already well built. Rosaria's C1 is bad because she isn't a good main DPS. Don't do it. On the other end of Eula we have Hutao, which has pretty shit constellations besides C1. C2 makes her blood blossoms do more damage, which I can guarantee no one pays attention to. C4 increases crit, which I would usually say is bad, but for the teams Hutao goes on and how much more this buff will proc, it isn't as bad. So I'm going to say C6 is the worst constellation, as it is only really good for damage per screenshot, and with the fact that it has 50 seconds of downtime, it isn't worth. Zhao is another case where basically all his constellations suck, except his C6, which is kind of nuts. His C1 charge provides him with more particles, which is fine but not necessary. C2 makes me want to cry because Zhao will basically always be on field, and C4 makes him more tanky. Out of all of these, I'm going to have to go with C2 as it is completely useless. On Gonyu, her C2 without C6 is terrible and should really actually be her C1, but overall you don't need 2 taunts in like any situation, and Gonyu is a 60 cost, so she gets enough energy. Okay, so I'm gonna have to talk with whoever designed Albedo's C4. It's completely useless until Zhao came out, and even then it's not worth pulling a constellation just because one character can utilize it. The person who made this was sipping some hard clan juice, and I think this might actually be the worst constellation in the game. C1 on Zhongli, all it does is make Pillar go brr. Okay, so I know this might be some hard cope, but despite all the shit Jinyan gets by the players and the company itself, Jinyan actually has good constellations, except her C6, as attack percent still stacks better. Mihoyo, please for the love of God, make her shield scale with attack percent. Child C2, give him more energy. Yay. Okay, so I know I said Albedo's C4 is bad. Mihoyo, what the actual fuck is this constellation? Not only did you make her scale with cryo damage bonus, you decided to make a constellation that has literally 0 use in the game. Diona's charge attacks do no damage, and on top of this, they have ICDs, so they can't fuse sustainably either. Now tell me, who made this constellation so I can find them? Klee's C1 is okay, but doesn't really do much. Venti's C1 is complete cheeks. Next, why does Keqing's C2 exist? It makes 1 ER particle every 5 seconds that is on a 40 cost. Yep, that makes sense. Mona's C6 makes me wanna fucking cry. Yeah, moving on to Chi-Chi, this whole character is an L, so I don't really want to clown her anymore. So yeah. All of Diluc's constellations are actually good, but if I had to pick the worst one, it has to be C1. It would have actually been C2, but it works through shield, so it's actually fine. Jean's C6 decreases damage that you take. Ooh. So, on Bennett, his C6 isn't his worst constellation. I actually think C6 isn't that bad, which is why I C6'd him in the first place. And it made him so much more fun, and opened up some more comps. His worst constellation is C4, by the way. Now, Fischl. Her C1 is counterintuitive, as for it to work, Oz has to be off-field, but the only reason you use Fischl is for Oz. It's like Mihoyo didn't know what type of character they were designing when they made this constellation. It's like C4s are cursed at this point. Jingqiu doesn't actually have a bad constellation, like, at all. It's kind of insane. The only one that I really can't say holds up as well is his C4, but even that constellation is still crazy good. Beidou's C1. No. Just no. With Zhangling, her C2 is actually really bad considering you don't build Zhangling with much attack, and you also don't really auto-attack with her that much. Razor C2 is very situational and doesn't really do that much. Yeah, Barbara C4 once again confirming that C4 is completely cursed. Lisa is weird because I legit know basically nothing about this character, but from what I can assume, all of her clones actually look pretty good. C2 helps her stand like a bean sprout so she can get full use of her kit. C4 makes more of those lightning thingies that shoot out, which helps her apply her status, and C6 enables her to do this as well. So if I were to pick the worst one, it has to be C1, but even then it's still good. Kaya is on the field for 2 seconds. He isn't going anywhere below 20 HP %. She's been hurt too much. But her C1 is ass. And on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment what you think the worst constellation in the game is, as I would love to hear and I respond to basically every comment. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace. Stay with me, little bitch. Yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch. No thoughts, no stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guac, new bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks. Jackie Chan, as she pay. Bad bitch, no bad. I just need another lick and she be counting.